See, my grandmother always say, even the rough food, but you will make it in more refined way.
A baked sweet potato is not some kind of luxury. However, it does make me feel good, allow me to relive my childhood time, especially spend some time with my Bigfoot woman.
After the wood all turn white.
But as 2020 Chinese New Year is near, I'm increasingly thinking about the past. I miss my lady Bigfoot, and I want to have her baked sweet potato. So today, I'd like to show you how to bake sweet potato in my wood-burn stove, like Lady Bigfoot used to make for me. My grandmother is the Lady Bigfoot, even though Lady Bigfoot had tiny bunted feet. She used to bake sweet potato in a wood-fired stove when I grew up. And while we were waiting for the potato, she would tell me about her life in the past. My childhood had full of fascinating stories, dangerous and extravagant.
My mother, as aristocrat, she has a little tiny, they called lotus feet. But the local people call her the Lady Bigfoot. The Bigfoot woman.
Unlike the traditional Chinese aristocrat, my grandmother's physical deformation totally in contrast with her personality. She was wise, sharp, and uncompromisingly independent. My grandmother wanted to be a businesswoman and to travel towns and cities to buy supply on her own. She opened the rice and the salt shops. And this had become a disgrace for the family in her
Noble
time.
woman, you will not show your face in the public. Her family will not allow her to do so.
Even unthinkable to do business among strange men.
But my grandmother insists. She doesn't care if my grandfather will stop her.
And I rebel against the family.
She told me that one day she carried a stack of rice basket to her shop. And my grandfather followed her.
My grandfather chased her out and used a bamboo ruler, beat her back. It was
so hurt.
She turned back to my grandfather, shouted a dirty word to him.
Pushed my grandfather down to the ground. And the whole town, just surprised. They just say, oh my God, she's not aristocrat. She's behave like a Bigfoot woman, like commoners.
After that, they sort of let her do what she wanted.
She's independent, she's kind, she's wise, and the local people, they all know about her. She told me that she buy the rice and salt much cheaper than her competitors. But she said people come to her because she provide the lodging, food, and care. And because lots of people come from the countryside and far away, so they're willing to come to my grandmother's place because my grandmother would treat them like family. So that's why her business is very successful.
And in fact, her shop were doing very well. Lady Bigfoot was a successful businesswoman. She was famous locally, but it also brought some unwanted attention from the local warlords.
They think an aristocrat woman want to do business. She must have lots of money. They waited.
So they planned a robbery after she returned from her trip and a boat full of supply and merchants. Well, the night when the warlord stopped the grandmother's boat.
So she was in her chamber, was sleeping, and the boat suddenly stopped and shouting and chaotic, and she saw something wrong. So immediately, she has 50 pieces silver coins. So she tied it up under my baby uncle's diaper.
There she was. Held baby. She opened her coat front, let her big breasts show. Start to feed my baby uncle. As the warlord shouted, "Everyone gets off the boat!" She calmly went out and walked off the board of her merchant boat. She said, "All the armed men were shocked, and some were embarrassed. They were afraid to come near. It was her empty boat, and she didn't mention anything about the hidden silver coin because she suspected some of her family servants were the insiders for the robbery."
All right, so now I took out from the stove. It looked pretty rough, right? This is called rough food. You know, in China, for the aristocrat, the rough food which is the corn and sweet potato, and the sorghum. So it's supposed to be for the peasant. But because if you always eat refined food, such as rice, and very fine cooking, and the very delicate food, is not very good for the health. So occasionally, Chinese noble people, they like to eat some rough food. But I guess my grandmother, inside, she is a common person. She wants to be free. So even she's born to be a noble woman. And she also chose my grandfather. My grandfather's family also is a fallen aristocrat, was in trouble, and his mother was an opium addict. And doesn't do anything. Every day just stay on bed and smoke opium. So my grandmother met my grandfather in the medicine shop, you know, the Chinese herb shop, because my grandfather was going there to get some medicine for his mother, and my grandmother to get something for her mother, because her father had already 3 concubines, and the youngest, of course, is like only 14, and she was 16, and she was very angry because my grandfather started to beat my grandmother's mother because he has 3 other concubines. Oldest wife doesn't really matter. So every time when my grandmother's father will abuse her mother, she will grab another 14 years old young concubine, which is, she was 2 years older than her. So she will beat on her. So if you say, "Dad, if you beat on my mother, I'm gonna beat her." So of course, her father, loved the little girl, a little concubine, only 14 years old. So then we'll stop. So that's her personality. So talk about Bigfoot. And when she was little, she already very rebellious. So she told the family she wants to marry my grandfather. Only him, nobody else. Of course, her family doesn't think so, because her family think, oh, his family is fallen, doesn't have anything, and I have a opiate inside house. So, but my grandmother insists, I want to marry him. Anyway, all right, so now I come back. I'm gonna hold this and I'm just gonna cut it. Oh my God, isn't that wonderful? See, my grandmother always say, even the rough food, but you will make it in more refined way. The food is rough, but you make a good presentation. You make an effort. You make it look like, how do you say this? A rough food, but you make effort to make it look like it is not. Or you make it look like it's not directly from the potato, but something else. You transfer something, make an effort to make it more fine, right? Rough food, but make it delicate. You got me? As I grow older, I realize 3 things I need that will make my life happy and never be lonely. First, have a lifetime hobby. Second, to be a good cook. Third, to be a good painter or artist. So that way, you will have your own company. You don't need to feel lonely. You can do anything you want. You don't need somebody to be with you, even if you have family. Of course, I do have family. But I enjoy solitude. I enjoy to be alone. In my future video, I'm going to talk more about art, good food, travel, and different cultural and from artistic point of view. I hope you will join me. Thank you so much for your time.